Professor Mahesh, this is
Yeah.
the Global Digest think tank group.
Okay.
So you
Yeah.
are our guest today. Last time I talked with Indian professor. I taught several professor. Also, I taught
Okay.
with Pakistani professor.
Okay. Because that will be a few things because I have been to Xinjiang three, four times, 4, 5 times. So I would like to show some pictures at least for the better understanding of the audience.
Sure. We are going to discuss about China,
Uyghur. Yeah.
Uyghurs issue, and it's in part of Xinjiang province in China. And Professor Mahesh expertise on this issue and how's international community perspective on Chinese counterterrorism policy. So welcome, Professor Mahesh.
Thank you and namaskar from India. Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor John, for this wonderful opportunity and nice to know you on social media and again becoming an academic friend online and now seeing you here also. Thank you so much. And as far
Welcome.
as the topic, yeah, as far as the topic is concerned, and the Chinese government has been devising policies after policies. Particularly, it is counter-terrorism that became the norm of the day or policy of the day in the 90s. But when it became the People's of Republic of China in 1949, the policy started counter anyone who was opposed to the Supreme Leader Mao, the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese state or the central government. And then also they started the counter criminals or any anti-state or anti-national elements. But the most important was the target was the counter minority because more than 55 minorities are living in China. But the focus, the target were the Uyghurs and the Tibetans. And then in the 90s, when China was tormented left and right because of the three evil forces, they call it national separatism, religious extremism, and international terrorism. They started a policy of counter three evils legally, domestically, and also regionally, and also at the international levels. And finally, the counter-terrorism law came into being in 2015. Next, please. So this is the map shows that these are the three regions. If you look at the blue color, light blue color is your Xinjiang region. The multicolor region is the Tibet, and the navy blue color is the Inner Mongolia region. These are the three autonomous regions of China where a kind of separate, they are demanding, the people of these three regions are demanding separate homeland out of China. So if you look at the geographical territory, then you can easily understand that if three important regions are taken away from China, then China will be nothing. The mainland will be just a small territory. Next. This picture I showed as the title itself shows how the counter-terrorism. I remember this place I visited. This is the city center in Hotan. That is one of the important cities of Xinjiang. So an incident happened in 2015 when I was present there. And I saw the mobilization capacity of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. After some argument with Uyghur, uh, at least some 400 or 500 policemen and the People's Liberation Army cadres were mobilized within just 5 minutes or so. That's why I showed you this picture. And this has become this region has become the helm of affair for the PLA. Please next. And everybody knows that the counter-terrorism began in the 90s, but the protests that began in the 1980s, many people also the entire world knows that the democracy movements began in 1989 after the Tiananmen Square happened. But in 1983, in Xinjiang, the young Uyghur university students, they lodged protest against the Chinese activities, and that again continued in the early 90s, and then in the post-91 period, and the 5th July 2009 period, and of course, the Xi Jinping era that began in 2011 till date for the last 1.5 decades. So they started with a kind of like strike hard maximum pressure campaign to keep this important region within this. So you can understand how. And this picture I am showing because the president of China, Xi Jinping, took a very serious view of the situation when he visited in 2014 the Xinjiang region, capital of Xinjiang, Urumqi. There were a couple of attacks, terrorist attacks, that prompted the Chinese government to start a counter-terrorism policy against the Uyghurs. Next. They didn't care about what is happening there. The only motive which many Chinese will agree, many realists will agree, because they thought national interest the realist theory of international relations says, national interests, they are above everything. So in order to safeguard the national integrity, territorial integrity, solidarity of the country, unity of the country, the government took stringent measures against anyone who went against the Chinese government. Next, please. So in 2014, when the situation in Xinjiang that went beyond control after a number of terrorist attacks, this person, Chuan Chuengchuo, who was also responsible for bringing stability in Tibet, he was brought to Xinjiang. So after he started a kind of new surveillance and all other things, also strict policing, and he used the security personnel to keep this region to achieve stability and security in this region. Next, please. So after the government started a number of measures, stringent measures, you can say, this happened. The entire world, they talked about surveillance, they talked about genocide, they talked about how it replicated the era of Xi Jinping, replicated the Nazi world, because as per the reports, more than 1 million Uyghurs are incarcerated in various parts of like Xinjiang. And there are also many, because the local people, 45% of the local people in Xinjiang, they are Muslims. So many world leaders, many countries, they talked about this is a harassment of Muslims. This is oppression and suppression of the Muslims. Next, please. So when we talk about Xinjiang, when we talk about Uyghurs, there is a contested history. The Chinese government says our linkage, the government's linkage, China's linkage with Uyghurs is more than 2000 years old. But the Uyghurs, on the other hand, who are supported by the Western scholarship, they say their history is more than 6,000 years old, but they do not have any evidence. China has the evidence. China has the mobilization power. China has the global clout, and it has done to maintain that the Xinjiang region has been its indivisible part for the last so many years. Next, please. Next, please. Now the Chinese government, they says that there is security, stability, peace, prosperity in Xinjiang. This region, since 2013, when the Belt and Road Initiative started, the region became the linchpin of the Belt and Road Initiative. It has been the main gateway to Central Asian country. Next, please. China, in addition to the domestic national policies, it has also mobilized the regional leaders also. When in the early 90s, the Chinese government, Chinese nation, Chinese Xinjiang region was tormented by these separatist activities, terrorist activities, and religious extremist activities. China, along with Russia and Central Asian countries, began the Shanghai Five, which was renamed as Shanghai Cooperation Organization in 2001. Since 2001 till date, every year there is an annual summit, and in that document, annual summit document, there is one clause that clearly says that they want to combat any menace from the three evil forces. Next, please. And now the question is how the international community has responded to the state of affairs in Xinjiang. The many countries, including USA and the European countries, even the other countries across the globe, they have started mobilizing the international community against the Chinese activities there. But China has become, because of its economic power, because of its military power, because of its political and global clout, it has been able to mobilize more than 50 countries, out of which 37 are Muslim countries. That means the Muslims do not have any sympathy. The Muslims in Central Asia, Muslims in West Asia, Muslims in South Asia, Muslims across the globe, they do not have any sympathy towards the Islamic, the Uyghur cause. This picture I am showing, we have to go back to the 2007 or 8, when many Uyghurs, they, after being released from the Guantanamo Bay, they came to Thailand, and Thailand government was given a huge money, as per the reports, as I know, to provide, to submit all these Uyghurs to the Chinese government. So the question arises when in 2020-21, 22 countries from the Western countries, Western world and other parts of the world, they lodged complaints against the Chinese government before the UN Security Council and even Human Rights Council. 37 countries and later on 52 countries, they supported China. That means Chinese mobilization, Chinese politics, Chinese diplomacy has reigned supreme in comparison to the Western diplomacy. Next, please. This is the Muslim countries they have not shown any kind of sympathy towards the Uyghur cause, because the Uyghurs are all the Sunni Muslims. 45% of the population in Xinjiang, they are the Sunni Muslims, they are the Uyghurs. The crown prince from Saudi Arabia and other countries also, they are being taken to, they have visited that country, and they have made fervent appeal to the people of Xinjiang not to indulge in any anti-Chinese activity. This is a latest report published just few days ago, that how the Chinese government has mobilized the countries in the Middle East and the North Africa region, and against the Uyghurs also. Next, please. And Pakistan, which is a self-acclaimed supporter of Islamism, Islamist activities, it also doesn't support, because it has a all-weather friendship with China. Similar thing is done by Iran, which is a double dealer, and Iran has got some $400 billion of investment from China. That is why they don't talk about. They talk about all other Muslims across the globe. They talk about the Muslims in South Asia. They talk about the Muslims in Southeast Asia. They talk about them, but they don't talk about the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. And the failure of the Uyghur diaspora, which has been spread across Europe, USA, Turkey, South Central Asia, they have also not been able to mobilize the international opinion against the Chinese. Next, please. And finally, the main buzzword, because of these reasons, China has won in narrative building, in like maintaining its policies in the region, and this is a win-win situation for China, which has become the main buzzword of the Belt and Road Initiative. Next, please. These are the main takeaways of my presentation. China has made the world believe that Xinjiang is inseparable, it is indivisible, and it is an integral part of its territory. It is a core part of strategy like the others like Tibet, Taiwan, and Hong Kong also. It will leave no stone unturned to secure, safeguard the region out against any internal subversion and any external influences. And finally, it will continue its policy to keep the Xinjiang region within its orbits. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your presentation. And it's show a lot of visible by looking at the images. Then we know how Uyghur people were they were whipped out by Chinese Communist Party, and they were uh, put into the concentration camp. Yeah, human rights were violated by Chinese government, and and Chinese government keeps saying they are happy in China. Last time I also saw at the video podcasting or at the news presentation, one of professor, the Chinese professor, he was graduated from America, Harvard University. He strongly support communist China action on the Uyghur, and he said Uyghur people are happy. They are developing compared to many decades. The current Chinese government is doing developing. You show clearly a lot of picture and a lot of analysis. How can you respond to that Chinese professor?
This is a thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful question. And this is deliberately, as I told you, that they build a narrative. They use the Chinese government uses all the sources, its media, its intelligentsia, its cadres, its diplomats, its bureaucrats, its policymakers, everyone. And they have also used particularly the intelligentsia, the Chinese intelligentsia. And let me just share with you that 92% of the population, they are the Han Chinese. They are very patriotic. They are very nationalistic. Because I have met so many people during my several visits to China, I find one thing. If you say anything against China, they react. So maybe this gentleman, this Chinese professor who studied at prestigious in like Harvard, maybe he has it is his own view, or maybe he is giving this opinion under the pressure from China. Again, that is part of the narrative building. And perhaps he doesn't want to incur the disfavor of his own countrymen or the system, the Chinese Communist Party.
And they probably learn human rights, international law, and freedom, democracy. You mentioned there are no freedom of speech and a lot of human rights violation. International law is violated. What he learned from Harvard and from prestigious university, from international education, but he turned blind eye and he lied openly in front of the people.
I think he is very scared of his the Chinese Communist Party or the government, because in past many people who had raised their voice against the government or the Chinese Communist Party, they have been persecuted. Nobody knows. In Xinjiang, many people are persecuted because they raised their voice against the And I have also met some people here also in India also. We have met some Tibetan scholars also. There are many types of transnational operation also they do. For example, you see a person who is living abroad or gone abroad, and when you go abroad, you find a free space where you can opine freely, can give your opinion freely. Okay, but you have to go back to your own country. When you go back from the airport onwards, you will be taken to the, and you will be persecuted, you will be harassed, you will be suppressed. So that has been many cases. Even during the reformist ruler like Deng Xiaoping also, anybody. That's why if you see my first slides, the first thing I said that anybody against the leader that began with Mao, anybody against the party, anybody against the state or the government, central government, they are being persecuted or they are being killed. So that is why, for fear of being persecuted by the central government, so they don't want to.
You said most the professor or expert in China will do as in favor of Chinese Communist Party government because they are fear of any prosecution or any jail, any punishment. But they got a lot of money on the other hand, right?
True,
Then,
true.
I mean, if they want to stand for Uyghur or those victims, those who are in trouble, they can get out of China and they should not say which is not true. It will affect in the academic world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are right when you say that they give a lot of money. The Chinese, they give a lot of money. I know some 15 scholars, 10 to 15 scholars who have been working on Xinjiang for the last so many years. Now they are not allowed to go to Xinjiang because they wrote against the party, they wrote against the government, they wrote in favor of the Uyghurs. Okay. So they are not allowed to go. So one academic, you are an academic, I am an academic. If you are not allowed to go there, how would you continue your research on a sensitive topic like this? So
Right.
that is why. And now, when they are not allowed, many academics, I'm not giving anyone's name, many academics, they are changing their stance, changing their position. They say, oh, fine, let us go and see. So, those who change their position, those who change their views, they are allowed to go there. Okay, they are given the Chinese hospitality, they are given 7-star treatment, they are given a lot of money. You go there, you also be a part of the Chinese propaganda. Okay. Or else you will just sit outside. You cannot do, you have to depend on the secondary source of materials to do or continue or pursue your research.
How can you maintain at the international worldwide academician ethic? How you can measure ethic, academic ethic?
You see, we live like in a democratic space. Suppose we in India also we can say anything against the government and also, but in some cases there also it is too difficult. There is no democracy there, even though they claim that we have some kind of, but there is no democracy there.
I see.
So that is why they are fearing the government, and maybe they are part of the narrative building. Maybe they are also like they have ambitions, they are aspiring for some posts because as cadre of that is why they have to be part of the Chinese. And if you see the as an academics, the objective should be that you should be impartial, you should be, you should have some ethics, you
Right.
should raise something is happening with something wrong is happening with anyone in the world, you must raise your voice. But this is out and out personal, and why he is doing it's difficult to say, but he should not have gone beyond the professional and academic ethics, which I believe.
Right.
But you cannot stop anyone because when you speak, I mean, you can have your own views, I can have my own views, we might have difference of opinion also. That is why you cannot put pressure on someone, you cannot compel someone to say this or that. So maybe this is the personal view or of Professor Victor. uh, Perhaps he thinks that whatever is going on, China is doing. But I have met many professors in China also. They have a very clear-cut perspective. If you look at their the Chinese policy in these areas from the realist theory of international relations. A realist theory says that nation is above everything. National interests are supreme. So the Chinese theorists, the Chinese scholars, the Chinese intelligentsia, they believe that keeping the nation and the national interest above everything is the primary duty. Even though the realist theory was devised in the Western countries, but this is practiced in later and spirit by the Chinese. That is why many people say that theoretically it is Western, but application wise it is Chinese. They follow a kind of hardcore realism.
Right.
So perhaps Professor Victor is following that one. Our nation is important. The national unity of our country is important. The territorial integrity of his country is important. The solidarity of the country is important because these countries, they are demanding, perhaps for a nation state, like your country is a nation state, my country is a nation state. So when any challenge to the national unity, integrity, and solidarity, that will not be tolerated by anyone. Here you see the realist theory of IR, international relationship.
Right. The thing, many scholars agree that the international system is anarchy, So then only national nation state or national sovereignty supremacy is within the national level, the
Yes.
state level. So state is the supreme, which means it is weakening international system and even UN system and a lot of international norm and standard, international law. It is weakening even now, weakening because
True, true.
realist theory was overemphasized or increasing emphasizing, and only people, many states become self-interest or selfish, we can say selfishness, and they don't want to concern other state or the whole world issue, international issue. So that's happening.
At our university level also, there is an ethics board also, which takes care, I mean, with regard to the scholars, the students, the teachers, their research, they clearly prescribe that this should be, the ethics should be there, and you should at least follow the academic ethics. You as a scholar, you should know what the academic ethics are. I as a researcher, I should know what should be the academic ethics. Okay, so that should be very personal also. It cannot be imposed by anyone. It can only be imposed in it should be understood. It should be understood that why the academic ethics are important, but it cannot be done in an authoritarian setup like China. So there is no ethics. They don't care about ethics. They only think of like their national interest.
Right. So it's happening in China and also among Chinese academicians. In time of democracy country, even India and many democracy countries, they pay more attention about human rights, freedom of speech. Can you say democracy bloc has more better ethics, academic ethics compared to China communist scholar, academician? Because India definitely you are aware about human rights, freedom, democracy. That's also part of international law, international norm, and international system. So can you say democracy bloc do better?
Yeah, of course, in comparison to other systems, democratic system is better than any other system, at least the authoritarian systems also. See, I cannot say that there is everything is 100% right in the democratic countries also, but in comparison to the authoritarian countries where one party or one man rule is there, is present, is available. So in that context, you see the democratic countries like US also, you can criticize the president, you can criticize the government, you can criticize
Right.
minister. That can also happen in our country also. But that is not possible in the authoritarian countries also.
Right. So in India, you can criticize prime minister, you can
Yeah,
criticize
yeah, yeah.
president, no problem. Freedom
Yeah.
of speech. But in China, it will be not possible to criticize Xi Jinping or Chinese president or Chinese government, even any government, And similar in North Korea, nobody dare to criticize Kim Jong-un, North Korean
Yeah,
leader.
yes,
Something
yes.
like that. So they are slightly different between democracy and communist authoritarian. It means if democracy is doing better than communist war, authoritarian war in academic field too.
Yes, yes. Yes, you are absolutely right. And I have seen many professors also I have met, they want to share something about but they cannot go against the government. But here also, as you can see, you can check the Google. You should not feel that I am exaggerating. As an Indian, I am exaggerating. See, sometimes also we write against. Suppose India's policy towards a particular country, we also criticize and we also give recommendations to the governments also. See, we criticize the policies, we criticize the government, even when the freedom of speech of a particular person is affected, he can go to the court. We have a very powerful judiciary here. Judiciary can also challenge the authority of the executive. So that is why even that can also happen in USA, even the Western countries also. So
Right.
I think for me, particularly from the academic point of view, see, they also take now also you see how Trump is taking action against the Harvard also. They're not, they have stopped the money because they went against, they raised their voice against Trump. They resisted the Trump tactics also. Trump, whatever Trump did, they resisted. But if you make a comparison, then it is better. At least you have some amount of, a good amount of freedom of speech in this democratic country.
Right, right. So in communist authoritarian, though they are over restriction, they have over restriction uh, and even no chance a little bit to express that is totally under control by the government in communist country. And when you talk about Harvard and those prestigious university in the West or in US, Europe, uh, do you see many corruption or a lot of also they are doing more money. So you can see like those many Chinese students they graduate from Harvard's and many prestigious university in the West, but
Yes.
they are not following the freedom and human rights what they are learning from the university. They are behaving different when they go back to China. How can you say that university are accepting them just for money, for business?
If you, as part of the university, if you are like teaching them the basic, the fundamentals of democracy, freedom, rights, duties, obligations, then the students, the faculty or the researchers, they must understand the beauty of all these things. See, so what they are learning, that depends on them. But they must, at least when you study in a free society, in a free university like Harvard and other countries there also, then you should have your own opinion. Even if your friend, your family, your parents, your brothers, sisters, and your countrymen, they do anything wrong, you must tell them so that they can rectify themselves. In some cases they do, but in many cases they don't do because they are fearing of any backlash from the government. Okay.
Right.
And the university, university system, and particularly the private universities you see. In many cases, we have seen, even in India, also some of the private universities, they have become the money making and money minting business. Okay.
Right. Right.
Everywhere, maybe in your country also, there must be there.
Right.
So they take a lot of money. They don't care about your views. Okay. But the university systems like Harvard, Cambridge, and others, they instill the idea of freedom. They instill the idea of human rights. They instill the idea. But sometimes also you see they are very biased. They will say something against one country. They will not utter the same against another country. Only because it is their own partner or something. Okay. So that should not be there. They should also follow some kind of ethics also. This I believe.
Right. They more respect human rights in democracy country, right? But in Uyghur case, those Harvard graduate, those professor and many scholar in China, they said there's no human rights violation, and and Chinese government is take care of them very well. They are good social welfare. Uh, they are enjoy in China whatever Chinese Communist government doing. So they totally disrespect human rights and international norm and religious freedom from Uyghur population. When you share about presentation, there's been there for thousands of years, right? So, and not only in China, we are in many other neighboring countries, right? Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, there are also many Uyghur population, right? So, but I don't know, you've been to Xinjiang province and met them with Uyghur people, or and you can say more about the history of Uyghur.
See, the history of Uyghurs, as I is uttered, like presented in my slide, it is a very contested one. See, the government of China, they have given a very clear cut. They
Right,
have published so many literature. They have so many evidences also. For example, you say you will find mummies. There are so many old 200, 300, 400, 500 years old mummies also. These are kept in the important museums across the region also. They have also found many other, like for example, there is a beacon tower, Han Dynasty 220 BC beacon tower found in Kashgar. So these are some of the evidences. So what they did, that legally, literally, they did it. They published many. Every almost there are some 10 to 12 white papers, government white papers are published by the China State Information Council. So you can go through it. It's available open in the open source. You can go through. In the first sentence, you see that East Turkestan was not a nation. Xinjiang was not a nation. It was China's part for last 2000 years. And officially the name was given by the Manchu Qing dynasty. Okay. But in the 1960s, two Uyghur intellectuals, one is Muhammad Amin Bura and another is Turgun Almas. Turgun Almas, these two people, they gave a theory that the history of Uyghurs is more than 6,000 years old, but they do not have any evidence. Who will listen to you without any evidence? If you go to court, they will ask for evidence. If you say something, you have to provide that evidence that your history is more than 6,000 years old. They do not have that. Even Turgun Almas, more than 600 pages book. I met one gentleman, Dolkun Kambiri in USA. He told me, he was one of the oldest Uyghur scholars. He told me that who will read that 600 pages for that one sentence, one line? It is not being translated into English also. So these are some of the reasons. China, which has a very clear cut,
Right.
very very clear cut, and its policy is very clear. They have clearly mentioned that, but they have with evidences they provide. If you ask, they will provide you evidences. These people, they do not have evidences. So history
So,
is contest.
you mean if Chinese did not accept, they don't accept Uyghur existence, then who were there? Han Chinese were there in the Xinjiang before Uyghur present in that place, or Uyghur are the first group to be present in that place, Xinjiang province and those current Uyghur location, or any other group were before Uyghur? You have any record or you have any idea? Because it means if Uyghur are not the first group, there should be another group, which group, which ethnic group. Then if there is nobody in that place, then Uyghur are the first group. Then they cannot deny Uyghur existence. But we know many Han Chinese are moving nowadays. So how China can say Uyghur are not existent, or they should have evidence who are there before Uyghur population, right?
See, that's too difficult to say because without any literature or evidence, it is difficult to give a clarity of who was there before the Chinese. That's why Chinese very clearly they say, okay, they do not say that there was any there is no the Uyghurs were there, but they were part of the Chinese and Chinese kingdom. Then later on the Chinese dynasty, various Chinese dynasty from Han dynasty, Tang dynasty, the Ming dynasty, and then the Tang dynasty. Sorry, the Yuan dynasty, the Mongol dynasty. Sometimes they relate themselves to the Mongols. Sometimes they relate themselves to the Tungans. Sometimes they relate to the Turkic people also. So it's true because that's why it's the history is contested. They do not have anything. You have to accept what the Chinese government, because they have the evidences. These people, they do not have the. Han Chinese were there from the 120 BC when the Han dynasty was there. In the post PRC period, post 1949 period, the government sponsored uh, transfer of the Han people from the mainland to the Xinjiang region. There are so many aspects to this also. In post 1949 period, the government called for a go west young Han policy. So they encouraged the young Han people to go there and settle down there. That was it. If you see in 1949, the Han population in Xinjiang was just 6.7%. Right now, it is 40%. So there is some near about 7 times increase in the population. Okay.
So in ancient time, during BC, you said 120 BC, something like that.
Han dynasty time though.
But Han
Hans were
dynasty
there.
is there, but I want to know Han ethnics are present
Yes,
in the Xinjiang province at
they
that
were
time.
there.
So it
They were
means
there.
Han's ethnics are present in Xinjiang province before Uyghur or after Uyghur ethnics group,
No, no,
or they are mixed.
they have been there for the last 2000 years.
Han
The
Chinese.
Uyghurs claim that they were a separate nation. The Chinese say, no, you are not a separate nation. You are part of the Chinese kingdom, Chinese dynasties. Okay, Chinese territory. So this is the controversy between the two.
Then
Chinese have evidence, Uyghurs do not have any evidence.
I see. Then where is Uyghur originated? It's from
Uyghur,
Turkey or from Pakistan or Afghanistan or
no,
Kyrgyzstan.
no, 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 no. That is that from the history in many historians who have worked on this. They speak about that they came from the region of Mongolia, and during the 10th, 11th century, also the Mongol Genghis Khan and his predecessors also ruled over that region. So they relate it to the Mongols also. So from that Mongol region they came. Okay.
I see. You point out Uyghur also descended from Mongol and part of Mongol
Some
ethnic.
historians they give their view.
Then
That
they
it is
moved
very
to
controversial.
Xinjiang province,
Yes.
and then they become you should say they change their name to Uyghur, or they are living together with Hans, or they are separated from Hans and they give them the name Uyghur, or they mix with Turkey or Pakistan, Afghanistan, because
No, no,
there are also a lot of Uyghur in those countries, you know. So
no.
it's complicated, but you said originated from Mongol, right?
Yes, I mean, some historians they say the only thing is that the historians, give a opinion, an opinion on the basis of the literature or the evidence they have. You cannot outrightly say that they came from this place or that place. Okay. What the entire world is believing that Chinese government has given a clear cut thesis, evidence that you are part of it. They give all these like archival reports also, the government reports also. There are many classified information also. There are some Russian, they also say, because that region also part of the Turkestan. They called it East Turkestan. West Turkestan was the Russian, the Central Asia region, and some parts of Afghanistan was also known as the Turkestan. The Turkic people, all the five Central Asian people, and the Uyghurs, the Azerbaijanis, these are the Turkic people. Okay, so these are very controversial. So it's very difficult to say, and many of the scholars across the globe they have consumed what the Chinese government given the thesis.
So can you say, because Uyghur are also Muslim, you know,
Yes,
Turkish descendants are also Muslim, and Uyghur become Muslim because they are cooperated with Turkey, or they are part of Turkey descendant, but you said Mongol descendant, then they cannot be Turkey descendant, but they are cooperating or mixed marriage, or then they become Muslim. And that the main issue is religion
yes.
issue, or
Really.
ethnic race issue.
They initially followed the religion of shamanism. Then they followed the religion of Manichaeism. From 3rd century AD to 8th century AD, before the advent of Islam, they were Buddhists. They followed the Buddhist religion. They were the followers of Buddhism. Sanskrit was the main lingua franca. But after, for 100 years from in during the 7th, 8th century AD, there was a Uyghur kingdom there also. According to many scholars, there was a Uyghur kingdom, but that could not survive. That later became the part of the Chinese empire. Okay, so during that period, many, including Sartuk Bura Khan, who was the leader, was the king of that region kingdom, he converted himself to Islam also. So after they were like converted, so but they remain part of the Chinese territory, because at that point of time, the Tang dynasty was ruling, the Chinese Tang dynasty was ruling, and then the Ming dynasty also ruling. Then the Mongol dynasty also came, like Genghis Khan, Chagatai, and his predecessors also. They also ruled over that region. So they remain part of the Chinese kingdoms. the Mongol dynasty also they ruled the Chinese, but that remained the part of the Chinese territory. Okay, that is why the history of this Uyghurs are very contested also.
See, so it means Uyghur originated from Mongol and later they converted to Islam religion, right?
8th century AD, yeah.
The similarity with the Tibetan probably because the Tibetan are not only different thing.
Tibetans are
They
different.
are not
Tibetans,
Islam, but
no.
they are also descended for they are originated from Mongol, right? Then they
Yes,
live.
yes, yes.
But Uyghur case is they converted to Islam. That is very different from mainland China. So they are
Yes,
much closer to the Turkish and neighboring Kyrgyzstan,
yes,
Afghan,
yes,
Pakistan because of Muslim religion.
yes, yes, yes,
So that's the thing, right? But
yes.
I'm not saying it's the same with Tibet, but the
No.
Uyghur is a more significant thing is because of Islam religion,
Yes.
right? So then you said Uyghur used to be they used to have a Uyghur kingdom, but the main Chinese Communist Party did not want them to be separate nation or they demanded for separate nation or they just want autonomous state. How do you see the conflict between Uyghur population and Communist Party? Because they should the right to get autonomous state at least, right?
See, they demanded, and then they also were able to create a short-lived government in 1933, just for 83 days, and again in the 1940s, they also established a separate. They called it Tiret, Turkish Islamic Republic of East Turkestan. Okay, this was created in 1933 for 83 days, and again in the 1940s. But after they became part of the People's Republic of China, Mao, during his long march in 1935-36, he mobilized all these minority people that he would support us. The civil war was going on. He would support us against the Chiang Kai-shek and all this. Okay. So the minorities people, they supported with a promise that Mao Zedong will confer autonomy on them. As a kind of, you can call it IWASH also, they conferred autonomous region on 6 regions. That is in, and on 1st October 1955, Xinjiang became Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, and there is Tibet Autonomous Region, there is Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, then there is Ningxia Autonomous Region, 6 autonomous region. So that was just an IWAS because they had promised, but there was no autonomy at all. But again, they made the provincial governor. They made a rule that the provincial governor of Xinjiang, of Tibet, of all these will be a local minority person. So in 1955, the first provincial governor of Xinjiang was Saifuddin Azizi, who was a Uyghur. So they only that was in black and white, that was only in paper. But the original power was in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. Chinese Communist Party has a secretary, general secretary at all the provincial levels. Right now, the de facto power lies in the hands of the general secretary of CCP of Xinjiang branch, Xinjiang provincial branch. Okay, so they had promised to give some autonomy. This is the autonomous status.
Right.
But for the last 75,
Right. It means Mao betrayed those minority because he promised to fight with them. He promised to give them autonomous, but they were given the fake autonomous, and the not real autonomous was given to the Uyghur people, even Tibet people. So that's the thing, right? In fact,
Mao
right,
Deng
Mao,
Xiaoping dissed.
right,
Everyone dissed.
they betray ethnic people, and they did not keep their promise. And even you said they could be the right to have independence, they used to have for a very short time, a few days or months. So that's the thing. And Tibet case will be slightly different with Uyghur, right? So Uyghur case is mainly because Uyghur is significant with the uh, Islam religion, but their ethnic origin is Mongoloid, right? They are Mongoloid, and also they used to live there, which means people are moving here and there since ancient time, and one group over another group, different group are taking place. It's complicated, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much for today, and
My
thank you
pleasure.
for
Nice
your
talking to you.